During the Cold War era, fear of nuclear fallout drove many Americans to construct fallout shelters. From the early designs to the luxurious underground bunkers of the 1960s, these shelters symbolized a new way of living. But how did these shelters promise safety amidst such uncertainty? Join us as we explore this unique aspect of Cold War life. In the 1960s, fallout shelters were built to protect people from the dangers of nuclear fallout. These shelters were simple in design, with floor plans that featured small enclosed spaces. A typical shelter included a main living area, storage for food and water, and a basic toilet. Cross-sectional views showed thick walls made of concrete and steel, chosen for their strength and ability to block radiation. Concrete was particularly favored because it was widely available and provided excellent protection. Steel was used to reinforce the structure, ensuring it could withstand blasts and radiation. Additionally, there were various types of fallout shelters. Backyard shelters were common and constructed underground. These were usually small, designed for a single family, and could be accessed through a hatch. Basement shelters were another option, where homeowners reinforced part of their existing basement. These were more convenient, but required significant modifications. Community shelters were larger and meant to accommodate many people. They were located in public buildings like schools or municipal facilities and were stocked with supplies to last several weeks. Understanding the design and layout of fallout shelters reveals their practical yet minimalistic approach to survival. But how did families adapt to daily life in these confined spaces? Life inside a fallout shelter was marked by cramped quarters and a focus on basic survival. Families shared small spaces furnished with bunk beds, fold-out cots, and minimal furniture. These shelters were designed to maximize space, using every inch efficiently. Storage areas were packed with non-perishable food, water containers, first aid kits, and other essential supplies. Canned goods, dried foods, and powdered milk were commonly stored, ensuring that families could sustain themselves for weeks or even months. Also, cooking posed significant challenges due to limited resources. People used portable stoves or canned heat to prepare simple meals, eating in shifts because of the lack of space. Managing waste was another crucial aspect of daily life. Makeshift toilets, usually buckets with lids, were used, and waste was carefully stored to prevent contamination. Ventilation was minimal, so keeping the air clean and breathable was a constant concern. Despite the harsh conditions, families made efforts to maintain a sense of normalcy. They played board games, read books, and listened to battery-operated radios for news and entertainment. These activities provided a small but important connection to the outside world, helping families cope with the stresses of life in a confined, survival-focused environment. Living in a fallout shelter involved more than just coping with cramped conditions and basic survival. It required careful management of essential supplies and resources. But how were these vital items organized and rationed to ensure survival? In a fallout shelter, the essentials for survival were carefully planned. Shelters were stocked with canned goods, powdered milk, and survival crackers, all chosen for their extended shelf life. These non-perishable items were vital for sustaining life during extended periods underground. Geiger counters played a key role in monitoring radiation levels to ensure the safety of those inside. Hygiene products, such as soap, toothpaste, and toilet paper, were equally important for maintaining basic cleanliness in the confined space. Visuals from that time revealed survival kits packed with these supplies, along with radiation detection equipment and emergency manuals. These manuals provided detailed instructions on how to use the equipment and manage resources effectively. Rationing food and water was an everyday challenge in the shelter. Families needed to plan their meals and water usage carefully to make their supplies last as long as possible. This meant eating smaller portions and reusing water whenever possible. Shelters were also equipped with first aid kits, flashlights, batteries, and other emergency supplies to handle unexpected situations. The goal was to create a self-sufficient environment where families could live for weeks or even months without any outside help. Survival depended on this meticulous preparation and resource management. Maintaining sanity in a fallout shelter wasn't just about having the right supplies, it was also about staying mentally active and engaged. How did families keep themselves entertained while confined underground? Families in fallout shelters found creative ways to pass the time in confined spaces. They turned to board games and card games for entertainment, which also provided a comforting sense of normalcy. Reading was another popular activity, as families brought along a variety of books to keep their minds occupied. Crafting, like knitting or making small handmade items, helped pass the time and offered a productive outlet. Battery-operated radios were crucial, offering news updates and playing music that lifted their spirits. Storytelling was a common pastime, with parents and children sharing tales to entertain each other. Practicing emergency drills played an important role, ensuring that everyone understood what to do in the event of a nuclear incident. Learning new skills, such as first aid or basic survival techniques, was encouraged to make the most of the time spent in shelters. These activities did more than just fill the hours. They fostered a sense of community and resilience among those living in the fallout shelters. By staying occupied and connected, families were able to maintain a sense of purpose and togetherness, even in the most challenging circumstances. While these activities provided a temporary escape and fostered resilience, could they truly shield individuals from the deeper psychological impacts of life in a fallout shelter? Living in a fallout shelter had profound psychological effects on both individuals and families. The ever-present fear of nuclear attacks generated a deep sense of anxiety that permeated daily life. People were confined to small, cramped spaces, which led to feelings of claustrophobia. This confinement made even simple activities feel overwhelming and difficult to manage. The absence of natural light and fresh air heightened these feelings, making the environment feel even more oppressive. Family dynamics were greatly impacted by these conditions. In such tight quarters, privacy was nearly impossible, leading to increased tension and conflicts among family members. Parents found it challenging to maintain a sense of normalcy for their children, attempting to shield them from the harsh realities of their situation. Despite their efforts, the stress and anxiety were palpable, and children could easily sense their parents' fear, which in turn affected their own mental well-being. People missed their regular social interactions and the comfort of their familiar routines, leading to feelings of loneliness and depression. The uncertainty about how long they would need to stay in the shelter and what awaited them once they emerged only added to the mental burden, making the experience even more difficult to endure. As families endured the psychological strains of shelter life, how did they cope with the added pressures of maintaining order and civility in such cramped quarters? Living in a 1960s fallout shelter required strict rules and social codes to ensure everyone's well-being. Managing conflicts was crucial in such confined spaces. Families developed clear communication strategies to help address issues calmly. Disagreements were inevitable, but resolving them quickly was essential for maintaining harmony. Hygiene was another critical aspect. With limited water and sanitation facilities, everyone had to be mindful of cleanliness. Regular hand washing, even with minimal water, was necessary to prevent illness. Waste management was also a priority. Chemical toilets were used, and maintaining them properly was vital to avoid unpleasant odors and health hazards. Privacy was a luxury in fallout shelters. Families created makeshift partitions using blankets or furniture to carve out personal spaces. Respecting each other's need for solitude was important to reduce tension. Quiet hours were established to ensure everyone could rest without disturbances. Food rationing was another area where rules were essential. Supplies were limited, so meals had to be planned carefully. Sharing responsibilities, such as cooking and cleaning, helped distribute the workload and encouraged cooperation. By following these rules and codes, families in fallout shelters could manage the challenges of confined living, ensuring their safety and well-being during a difficult time. Maintaining harmony in a fallout shelter demanded adherence to strict rules, from hygiene to privacy. But how did the U.S. government push for widespread shelter building and prepare citizens for potential nuclear threats? Additionally, in the 1960s, the U.S. government started a large-scale effort to prepare citizens for possible nuclear attacks. Public service announcements, instructional videos, and pamphlets were widely shared to encourage people to build and stock fallout shelters. These materials conveyed reassuring messages, emphasizing that with proper preparation, families could survive nuclear fallout. One well-known public service announcement showed a family calmly entering their well-stocked shelter, underlining the importance of having enough food, water, and medical supplies. Civil defense posters and booklets were crucial in spreading this message. The Office of Civil Defense produced many guides, such as Fallout Protection and the Family Fallout Shelter, which provided detailed instructions on constructing and equipping shelters. These guides included diagrams and lists of necessary supplies, making it easier for families to follow the recommendations. The designs focused on simplicity and practicality, ensuring that even those limited resources could build effective shelters. The government's efforts also included instructional videos that were shown in schools and community centers. These videos demonstrated step-by-step processes for building shelters and explained the science behind radiation protection. They aimed to educate the public on the importance of shielding and how materials like concrete and earth could significantly reduce radiation exposure. The preparedness culture of the 1960s was heavily shaped by these government efforts. Civil defense drills became a common part of life, with schools conducting regular duck and cover exercises. The government also urged communities to identify and mark public buildings that could serve as communal shelters in case of an emergency. As we reflect on the Cold War era, fallout shelters symbolize the intense fear and mindset of the time, offering a practical yet imperfect solution to the threat of nuclear attacks. While these shelters provided some level of safety, their effectiveness was limited and shaped by the era's pervasive anxiety. Today, perspectives on nuclear safety and civil defense have evolved significantly, focusing more on international diplomacy and advanced technology rather than personal bunkers. Modern prepping culture often centers on a wider range of emergencies, and many old fallout shelters now serve as historical sites, offering a glimpse into a bygone era. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the channel for more informational videos that look into our past. We'll see you next time.